Most of us are in the fight-flight response of our nervous system 80 to 90% of the day. Many of us don't even shift down into rest and restore during sleep anymore. And this is a very recent evolution for human beings. And
welcome back to another episode of the Easewell Podcast. I'm Dr. Mayor Cara, and today I'm sitting down with my very good friend and very talented friend, Mrs. Lisa Jones. She is a practitioner on health and well-being, and she's here to shed some light on breathwork with us. So it's a subject very dear to myself and very powerful for literally every human being that's breathing. So let's jump into it with Lisa.
hi, Mayor. Nice to be here with you.
It's so awesome to have you here. Finally, we have carved out some time to make this happen. We've been meaning to for some time. And this subject's super important. It can change a lot of people's lives very, very fast. So, I mean, let's dive right into it.
Yeah, it can change lives very fast. I mean, we breathe 35,000 times a day.
Wow.
And I think it's one of the most important processes that happen in the body that we can actually control, because breathing is both voluntary and involuntary. Right. And what the ancient people knew is that when you control the pace of your breathing and become intentional with how you breathe, really the ripple effects in your life and in your higher consciousness and in your physical body are sort of infinite.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I've lived that, actually. It goes back to am I saying it right, Qigong?
Qigong is the Chinese medical breathing movement practice. I think it's probably 3,000 years or older. Wow. But breathwork probably, I mean, you could find records on breathwork in the Hindu culture through, pranayama that might even be much, much older. Yeah. And there's also really fascinating traditions of breathwork in ancient Russian mystic texts.
Oh, wow.
And in Hawaii, the Kahuna people have a really powerful and ancient breathwork practice. It's literally like the thing I geek out about the most is the fact that it sort of appears all around the world with very, very similar kind of techniques, uses, and outcomes. And, when you see that kind of thing happen around the world without people actually having direct contact with one another, it really makes you consider the fact that there's, a universal intelligence that people are sort of responding to and feeding off of.
100%.
Yeah.
From Qigong is Chinese.
Yes. And
then pranayama is Indian origin. Yep. And I mean, you highlighted some other things as well in Russia as well. It's interconnectedness with the entire world. Maybe somebody visited somebody and they were like, "What are you doing? Why are you so happy? What is this?"
Yeah, I tend to think of it a little bit more esoterically, that we were really tapped into one another across large distances. It didn't require physical contact for information to be exchanged, and there was just a much more higher sensitivity to shared consciousness knowledge at that time. We have a lot more distractions now.
So many more distractions. Cell phones, technology, you name it. I mean, we're always in a constant state of stress, which is a good reason for us to have this conversation today. Because from what I understand, we have two different kinds of breathing, right? Intentional and non-intentional. Or one is more of our archaic brain, allowing us to survive, our reptilian brain allowing us to survive and get oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. And the more intentional breathing is calming ourselves down. I'd love to hear some techniques and ideas.
I mean, I think you've touched on a really good way of distinguishing between the two. One is something that just happens without us thinking about it. It's a biological practice,
right.
Or mechanism that happens automatically. But the intentional breath, the one that we're voluntarily controlling the pace of it, we're thinking about where in our body we feel the breath moving. Where is the location of movement, we call it. And we're adding into it the idea of creativity, of using our mental or our spiritual intention. Those are all components of the second kind of breath work. And you say it's calming. Yes, it is, but it can also be used for so many, there are different recipes of breathing practices that can, bring you into great energy, that can enhance your mental focus. Like for high performers, they breathe in certain ways before they go speak to large groups of people in very stressful situations. Or you can certainly use it to help you fall asleep, which is the exact opposite of what the other example was. So the differences in the there are thousands of breathing practices, and the differences in the results it produces inside the body, the mind, and the spirit are all very distinct. So
powerful stuff. It's free of charge, and it's available always.
The best piece of information, right? Because almost all the other things that we do for wellness, we need a practitioner and we need money in order to engage. Mm-hmm. But one of the most powerful motivations for me getting involved with teaching breathwork to our clients who are dealing with a lot of chronic long-term issues, unsolvable issues by Western medicine, is to help them find a practice that they can do on their own to engage their immune system. So that is a very specific outcome of doing breathwork, is we can turn the immune system on and up. And
that's powerful.
It really is. And so the situation is really that maybe human beings aren't designed to be in the state that we're in chronically all the time now. We have two branches of our central nervous system. Most of us are in the fight-flight response of our nervous system 80 to 90% of the day. Always. Many of us don't even shift down into rest and restore during sleep anymore. And this is a very recent evolution for human beings. And it's hard to, say for sure how much impact this is having on our health. But if we take a common sense approach, we can, surmise that it's probably having a catastrophic effect on our health.
I can only imagine.
And so when we breathe in certain rhythms, we can activate and strengthen the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. So the way the brain works is that it gets stuck into habitual loops. And and the nervous system is like that too. So if you have a prolonged experience of stress where you're really in that sympathetic branch of the nervous system all the time, it's very difficult for the calming aspect of your nervous system to then take over and do its job. We become habitually stuck.
Makes sense.
So, a therapeutic dose of breath work when I work with somebody is usually about 6 minutes. And I can tell that we've actively engaged the calming part of the nervous system because certain things start to happen. Breath can really slow down, and saliva starts to get produced in the mouth. A whole bunch of other things start to happen in the body that you can observe as a breathwork facilitator, and you know that you've kind of started to open up a more optimal state inside the biology.
Would you say the body or the mind slows down a bit when you are breathing?
It's very different for everybody, but I think that most people would say that there's more space between their thoughts. When you're consciously paying attention to the pace of the breath, after a certain number of minutes of doing that, the thoughts sort of space themselves out. And there's really interesting new data because there's a lot of new science around breathing right now.
I'm noticing, there's a lot of information out there becoming a really hot topic as of recent.
So I think there were a lot of clinical trials starting to happen, but then when we hit COVID and James Nestor published this amazing book called Breath, The New Science of an Old Practice or something like that, it hit right at the right time when we were all thinking about our lungs. Yeah. We all had a little more time and we wanted to take good care of ourselves. So breathwork became very popular. And the other person who really influenced that was Wim Hof. Okay. You know about Wim?
No, I'm not sure.
Oh, Dr. Cara, you got to know. Wim Hof is like the Iceman. He's the guy who does the ice baths and the breathing. Yeah, you know. I
stand corrected. Yeah. I know. Yes, I just didn't know his name.
Yeah. So he, I love him. He's a controversial figure, but he tapped into a whole community, sort of the bro health culture community who love and have embraced the ice bath. But the second part of Wim Hof's practices are breathing. And it's a very different kind of breath technique than what I teach, but I've done it and it's amazing. And if you want, I'll take you there for a few minutes.
Yeah, definitely. During this podcast?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, we can always add in a little extra part right there. I love it. I will tell you though, when I was studying in my studying days, I didn't understand breath work as well as I do now, or as I did after I figured out that I needed to work on it. When I did my breath work, some may call it meditation, but to me, it's a mixture of the both. Clearing my mind and focusing on my breath. 4 breaths in as you inhale and your lungs expand, pushing your diaphragm down, and 8 counts. Sorry, not 4 breaths. 4 counts inhalation and 8 counts exhalation. Controlling that breath and that diaphragm. I learned that a long time ago. It helped me immensely control my mindset.
I bet it.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more now.
Yeah.
Is that a certain kind of breath work? Is there a technique the name for that?
Well, I don't know if that particular count has a name, but it is a count that is most often used. You're basically doubling the length of your exhale. You're doubling the length of your inhale on your exhale.
Correct.
Right? So anytime you extend your exhale length, you're doing a calming type of breathing. So you're bringing more carbon dioxide into your body, essentially.
Okay.
You're allowing for the buildup of carbon dioxide. So you can sort of understand that makes sense because you're not inhaling as much new, fresh oxygen air, and you're making your exhale last very long, and that builds carbon dioxide up in the body. So years ago, before the advent of like mental health drugs, of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, used to go to clinics and huff carbon dioxide to calm people down.
Oh, wow.
It's not a pleasant experience. It's actually really painful to huff on carbon dioxide, but the pain dissipates immediately. And what follows it is a deep, deep sense of relaxation.
Wow.
So it's kind of similar to like breathing in and out of a paper bag because you're just recycling the same breath. So you're using up the oxygen inside your body. So what's left in the paper bag is a lot more carbon dioxide, and you're starting to inhale that more. And that's how you kind of get yourself out of a panic attack.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that breathing technique, so when you do it, what's your personal experience? Is it a little bit hard to control the length of that exhale when you first start?
I wouldn't say it would. It would be a little more difficult, correct? Because you're breathing out a little longer, and it's something to get used to.
Yeah.
But once you get that rhythm, I mean, the worries, the thoughts, the anxiety of the future and the past melt away, and you're here right now in the present moment. That's why I called it meditation for a moment, because I likened it to thinking of it as clouds moving. We're not attaching ourselves to the clouds. We're just observing that the clouds are there, and they will be out of the scene, out of your eyesight over some time. So observe those and don't attach on to those things, just like my breath work. And that's kind of how I guess help myself at that point in time.
I love that image of like not attaching yourself to your thoughts. Like you can't stop your mind from thinking. When you're doing breath work, thoughts come up. The mental habit is like a freight train. It just keeps on going. But if you don't attach yourself to your thoughts and you keep focusing on the breath, the thoughts come slower and you can dismiss them more quickly. And you give yourself such a needed rest from all like the
mental activity,
chaos of your mental activity. I mean, it's really pretty. It's a really great tool to begin meditation. So you have a lot of people who say to you too, "Oh, you meditate? I can't meditate."
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, and that's really too bad, because if I taught you how to breathe a little bit in the beginning, just like you're describing your breath,
that's meditation. Right?
That is meditation.
Right.
I mean, there is a lot more to meditation. I mean, it's like scratching the surface of the idea of meditation, but it still is the stillness that people are looking for and need.
Yeah, it's a good starting point, and I mean, honestly, a good place to stay and add on things as you move forward. But it's as simple as that: staying in the present moment, breath work, and meditation. Accomplish those things. And
so, when you do breathing, Mayor, do you also like use mantra or intention or any kind of subconscious suggestions?
Good question. Actually, when I learned to meditate at the young age of maybe 3 or 4 years old,
bravo,
my parents deserve all the credit for that, because they taught us that very early on in life.
Beautiful.
Me and my sister. So it's a skill that I'm so grateful that my parents introduced us to that at a very young age. It helped years down the line, because at the moment I didn't understand what we were doing. But as I started getting older and utilizing and having more stress and utilizing these things against my stress, I felt powerful. So to answer your question, we started off with transcendental meditation.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I learned. And there was a mantra involved that I had to repeat over and over again. I was 3 or 4 years old. So I guess my thought was I had to repeat that mantra in order to just stay on task.
Yes.
As I'm older, I don't repeat any mantras. I just sit and focus on my breath for a fixed amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, please open us up to the enlightenment to the mantra.
Well, I think the theory is, I want to do this justice because thousands of people have written about it. But the idea is that when you quiet the mind and your presence is more in your body, because that's what happens when you start to focus on your breathing. It's a function that happens below the head. Mm-hmm. So it's called an embodied presence. So you're developing that embodied presence. All the subconscious body wants to understand what your intention is. It mm-hmm. needs direction, mm-hmm. right? So we're always feeding that subconscious body information through our screens, through our conversations, and through our thoughts. But when you slow down the thoughts and you take away all the input of the screens and the information, the subconscious body is still looking for direction. Mm-hmm. So if you craft yourself a script at this point, you're basically involved in self-hypnosis or maybe even manifestation.
It's powerful.
Yeah. So the recipe for it is to not just have the script, but also manifest inside the body a really positive emotion. So positive emotions and the clear script. So you would call into your mind as you're breathing a really powerful sense of gratitude. Mm-hmm. Or you wrap yourself in an image or sort of like a blanket of a feeling of great love or nurturing presence. And as you engage with that emotion and you say, for example, my body is healthy. I am 100% well. My body is absolutely perfect. Everything's functioning exactly as it should. The subconscious mind is attaching itself to that. And our thoughts affect our biology. We know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's been proven in clinical data for centuries already. So that is how you begin to change biology. It's one of the ways that you can begin to change biology.
Seems magical, but ancient, and we all have the power to do this with ourselves. So if there's anything that we take away from this conversation today is know that you have the power to heal yourself mentally, to have that clarity, to be calm, you have the control within your own body. And that's what Lisa's teaching us today. So amazing stuff. You
want to experience just a couple of seconds of it before?
I'd love to.
Okay, maybe a little bit more than a couple of seconds. All right, so you can go ahead and put your phone down and then just have both feet like nice and grounded on the floor. So what we're going to do is a version of Wim Hof breathing, which is, I'll just give a little bit of history on that. It's called active interval breathing, and it's a more dynamic breath practice that the contraindications here would be if you have unmedicated psychotic disorder. This is not a kind of breath work that you want to do, or if you have unmedicated health issues, because you're going to be breathing actively and athletically, okay? And we do have some information that it can trigger episodes if you have either one of those health conditions, but you're good, right?
I hope so.
Okay, good. So I'm going to ask you to breathe in a 2-part breath. So what that means, you will know this, but I'll explain it for everybody watching, is the first part of your breath feels like it comes into the lower part of the body, so the belly expands. And you probably also feel a little bit of pressure in the low back and in the side ribs. And then the second part of the breath, you sip in a little more into the chest, but not so much that you're lifting your shoulders. So it looks like this. And then you let it go with an open mouth. So you're breathing in through the nose, into the belly, 2 parts, into the chest, and then let it go. Into the belly, into the chest, and let it go. Okay, so just stop for a minute now. So I'm going to take you on a journey where you're going to do maybe 20 of those breaths in repetition. So you want the breath to be circular. Okay, you want the inhale to meet the exhale and the exhale to meet the inhale. So you're just going continuously breathing on my guidance. Okay. And then on the last breath, I'll close you down. You'll let out your breath. You'll be totally on empty. And then you're just going to be in your hold. No breath needed. Eyes closed, feeling what's happening in the body. I'm going to keep you there for just about 20 seconds, and then I'm going to ask you to breathe in. So typically that would be done in like a 3-round practice, but we'll just do one. And I think you'll already feel like a little bit different inside of yourself. Okay.
Excited.
All right. So hands on your laps, on your lap. Feel your feet on the floor, Mare. That's good. And let's have an aligning exhale together. So we're going to breathe out. And now breath into the belly, into the chest. Let it go. In, out. Good. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. Keep going. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. 10 more, Mare. In, out. I'm going to go with you. Last breath, let it out and hold on empty. Now, let a little more breath go because I know you have it in you. Bring your awareness into your body, noticing any tingling, feel the blood moving in your body. Relax and drop your shoulders. And we're going to breathe in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big breath in. Hold at the top. Hold right here. Give a little bit of a squeeze to the pelvic floor. There you go. And now let it go. And go ahead and keep your eyes closed for a second. Just get some descriptive words going about how you feel. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Oh.
So usually 3 rounds of that really shifts the ratio of the gases inside the body. It can produce some emotional releases too when you're breathing. Yeah. And I have some observations with you about what kind of a breather you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Well, first let me hear how that felt. Was it hard for you to do the breath pattern?
Initially, I felt like I was probably breathing a little bit faster than I would like to.
Yeah.
But after, about halfway through, I felt really calm and relaxed.
Okay.
From it.
Could you feel energy or anything inside the body when you
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could feel my blood flowing. I could feel the tingling in my fingers and my toes, and also the back of my head, my temples.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. So what happens there is when you're breathing like that, it's a vasodilator. It releases nitric oxide into the body, and that expands all your vessels. Nitric oxide's the prime ingredient in Viagra, so it's a real vasodilator. And you'll feel that by the tingling inside of your head and the feelings inside your fingers, but it's also bringing circulation to parts of your body that might be constricted by inflammation and things like that. And that's, I think, why Wim Hof teaches it, is because it really heals inflammation and chronic pain and helps people recover faster from workouts. So it's a good practice to do. So you do like 3 rounds like that, and you extend your holds in between the rounds for as long as you can. So you sit in your breath hold. I didn't take you for a long breath hold because I like to know a person a little bit before I ask them to be in breath hold. That can make somebody feel really anxious. If you have an anxiety disorder, I don't want to.
Holding your breath.
Holding breath, yeah, can.
For sure.
But yeah, so that's Wim Hof style breathing, very different from the more meditative style you were describing. So it's more of a recovery from workouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll utilize that moving forward.
Yeah. But you are a chest breather. Sorry to, can I diagnose you? Please. So it's probably 80% of us now really just breathe up in the upper chest and shoulders, which is not how our bodies are designed to breathe. And it's as we become a more sedentary culture, and especially now where our hands are at desks, our arms are up at desks all the time, we have chest and shoulder breathers, so chronic neck tension, propensity for headaches.
Big time.
And what happens is, as you breathe more with these upper chest and shoulder muscles, you're not using the muscles that are in your body that are designed to breathe. So the rib cage has all these intercostal muscles, and they're supposed to be flexible and fluid. So because you've seen, yogis and practice yoga, that they can expand that rib cage like the gills of a fish. I mean, they can have, like, in some cases, their range of movement is 3 or 4 inches in the thoracic cavity. Most of us really can only expand it a little bit now. So it's really like a stranglehold on the lungs. And the tissue of the lungs in the bottom is different from the tissue of the lungs at the top. It's designed to transport more oxygen throughout the body. So when that doesn't expand and become fluid, we're really not getting great efficiency of oxygen use. And there's a lot of chronic fatigue, a lot of slow recovery time happening for people, and difficult to explain. But could it be because we don't breathe the way we're designed to breathe anymore? So what I would typically do is take somebody like you and do some physical therapy. So I get you down into child's pose or down in savasana, put weights on your back, ask you to use the muscles again in the low back. The low back is supposed to breathe. We're supposed to breathe low and 3-dimensionally. Not up here. So, and the other thing is we're always trying to look good in our clothes. We want those washboard abs. So soft bellies, rounded bellies.
Yeah.
No, not so much. But when I breathe, there's a full expansion in the lower torso. And also the diaphragm muscle, which is this pizza-shaped muscle down along the base of the rib cage. When you breathe in it properly, that diaphragm muscle is pushing down against all the lower organs 25,000 times a day. So it's helping all the enzymes of digestion. It's creating motility there.
Wow.
And how many clients do you have that, I don't know how much they share with you, but difficulty going to the bathroom or hard time digesting food?
I mean, I have certain patients we talk about that with, but certain we don't. I mean, I'm sure that's a majority of people these days, because the quality of nutrition and also how we're breathing, all of it together plays a huge part.
All of it. Yeah, you see all of it. That's what I love about you, is that you're really interested in the whole aspect of it. I love to work with direct service providers, people who are therapists or chiropractors, to help them see, like, what's happening with the dynamics of somebody's breath, and how could what's happening in their body, how could their breath be one of the most critical factors in why they're chronically in pain in their body.
Yeah, because your muscles will retain tension if you're not breathing correctly. Right. Is it true to say the carbon dioxide builds up in your muscles, or lactic acid builds up in your muscles? It's
lactic acid. So it's kind of a weird, like, complex chemistry that I'm not as great describing as I am at other things. But what I think basically happens is, in order for your body to release a molecule of oxygen into your muscles, there has to be the presence of carbon dioxide there. So if there isn't enough carbon dioxide because you're breathing too fast, you're not having the slow breath that allows carbon dioxide to build, then the oxygen doesn't get offloaded, and then the muscle becomes, it doesn't get rejuvenated by fresh oxygen.
Makes sense.
Okay. I hope I got that right. If you're a scientist out there, you can.
I think people get the gist of it. So this is uberly powerful stuff that we could do wherever, whenever.
Yes.
We do need some training on it because of the learning that we have to unlearn and get back to a more natural state of functioning. What is one technique that we could use for maybe somebody wants to have a little more energy? Yeah. Can you share with us anything like that?
Yeah. So, the breath work that we just did, the active interval breathing, will bring a lot of energy. So calming practices are usually longer exhales. Okay. Energizing practices are longer inhales, more dynamic inhales, right? Okay. So, but there is a practice that I think kind of balances everything, that brings energy, but also brings that clarity of mind. And it's most recently called coherent breathing. I think in the past it's been referred to as heart resonance breathing, but it is the practice that Tibetan monks use in monasteries, and it's the practice that happens naturally when you practice Qigong. And it's about a 4.5 second inhale and a 4.5 second exhale. Okay. And it's completely circular. So the breath never stops. The pattern never releases. So it would go like this.
I'm practicing as, as you're saying it.
Okay, so close your eyes and exhale first. And now I'm going to count your in-breath through the nose. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Now keep that count on your own, Mare, inside your mind. And as you're doing it, I want you to experience your breathing like a wave moving inside of you. So as you breathe in, the wave is coming up inside all the way to your head. And as you breathe out, the wave is washing down all the way to the tailbone. Breath in, 2, 3, 4. Breath out, 2, 3, 4. Keep the pace for just another minute and we'll do some breath moving. I want you to use your imagination now to send your breath all the way down to the balls of your feet as you breathe out and all the way to the crown of your head as you breathe in. You're just flicking your attention down to the balls of your feet on your out breath. And then you're letting your attention rise up to the top of your head on your in breath. So it's like you're drawing an orbit in your mind's eye. And maybe you can still experience that sense of a wave like you're a child on a beach, lying, gentle surf, breath wave moving up inside of you, breath wave receding, returning back to the sea. Now just let your breath be whatever it wants to be. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Not going to lie, I wanted to stay there for a few more minutes.
That's a place I like to be.
That was calming.
Yes.
Very, very calming.
Yeah. And you don't need to see a practitioner to learn how to do that. I mean, you can pop in on a YouTube video or a pace soundtrack.
Having somebody, though, coach you through that is super powerful. Because, you could turn on TV and do that, but it's not going to be as intuitive as having somebody show you like yourself.
Yeah.
But that's a place I like to be.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good feeling.
Well, this gets into something that I'm sure you do for your clients, and I'm sure your clients experience when they're with you, which is just the quality of your presence, right? That you are actually co-regulating people by the way you talk to them, by the tone of your voice, the kindness in your eyes. You know, that's a healing moment. So having somebody guide you through breath work, I was co-regulating you. You know?
Yeah, I love it. I co-regulate, so to speak, my patients when I am adjusting them. We're always doing, if anybody comes to the practice, they know that I am the hippie sort of doctor, I guess. Yeah. We're always working on breath work. Let's breathe in intentionally through the nose and out the mouth. And releasing, intentionally meaning breathe in all the good and release all the negative emotions. That's kind of the hypnosis I use within my practice. Yeah. I'll definitely be moving forward. I mean, using some of these techniques moving forward, but it helps facilitate the adjustment, helps the patient relax, gets them into a mentally clear space, know that they're safe, and they feel confident. I
really think that there's not enough credit given to that moment of presence that you have with somebody just directing their breath. This is a big overlooked factor of why people come to see you.
I think so too. My grandmother always used to tell me to make sure that I'm breathing correctly. I'm like, I'm always breathing. What are you talking about? But that's, again, going back to that reptilian or primitive state of, we're definitely going to breathe because our heart's pumping, our lungs are doing the same thing, our blood has to go. Yeah. But there's she meant something so much deeper. And I didn't realize that until, a little older in age, getting a little older in age. And it's super, super important. Because we could always be victims of anxiety, of depression. And we're always going to be seeking, if we don't know this information, something external. That's usually short-lived.
Yeah. I really think the most powerful takeaways are, the data that I read that like within 3 minutes of controlling the pace of your breathing, we call it voluntarily controlling the pace of breathing, VCPB.
Okay.
When you voluntarily control the pace of your breathing, it doesn't really even matter what pattern. You're just beginning to use your mind to get into your body, basically. And that's when you see heart rate variability improve massively. And then you see the immune response turn on.
Makes sense.
And, you didn't need to take me any deeper into the research. I was really intrigued by that and thought, if I can combine that with an acupuncture treatment. So sometimes Dave's putting needles in and I'm guiding somebody in breathing practices. And then they're integrating and receiving the treatment so much more deeply. So.
Wow. So, if we can go through that a little bit. David is her husband, an amazing practitioner in acupuncture, helps me out a lot, and actually just helped me recently get over many things. But I will say I would love to try that out next time I come see you guys.
Yeah.
The breath work plus the acupuncture, because the acupuncture, I'm not going to talk about it too. David's probably not going to love me by saying this, but it's energy, right? He's shifting energy. He can definitely explain this a lot better than I can.
He would love that you said that. That's really how it is.
I didn't want to say, make it, dumb it down too much or anything, but it's basically shifting energy, and the breath work does the same thing. I mean, we were talking about pranayama earlier, and that's basically energy control, aka breath control, and then Qigong, which is all about breath work, and again, been around for millennia.
Yeah,
now.
These things are fascinating how they're really interconnected.
Yeah.
Yogic practices and not just the moving asanas, but the way that you control the breath during a yoga sequence, and way you control the breath during a Qigong sequence. It's medicinal, and it's very subtle, and it's an ancient healing practice that I think is so foundationally healing that I can't speak more highly about it. So, some people think that because acupuncture is considered an alternative medicine, that it's not
alternative.
It's not hard healthcare. It's not serious healthcare. But I mean, the Korean scientists that explored the whole meridian system that the acupuncture is based on can actually now image it. So we've never been able to satisfy Western science skepticism about the acupuncture meridians, the idea that there's actually, like we have blood vessels in the body, we actually have rivers of energy that move through the body. And they are actually probably more determinant of our health than circulation and respiration and other things. But because we couldn't see it, it was hard for people to believe in. But now we can see it. The Koreans have imaged it, and they've named it the premovascular system, which I think is great. And when you use breath in conjunction with needle placement, you can actually get someone to experience the movement of the energy as they breathe. So you cue breaths on needle insertion or needle extraction, and you actually suggest some intentions, like as you breathe out, make space for the needle, so people are creatively engaged in their own process, and it really rocks. And there's a whole other discipline of more modern acupuncture called esoteric acupuncture, which requires that you guide a person's focus, breath, and imagination to certain points in their body. No needles involved. So I might ask you to breathe into your right hand, breathe out, breathe into the top of your head, breathe out, breathe into your left hand, breathe out, and then visualize that plane of a triangle. So it becomes a little bit more creative, and
the intention is basically the difference.
And you're controlling the premovascular system with your mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're allowing your body to shift energy around.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like if a branch fell across a stream, and then you get this sort of buildup of energy above it and a depletion of energy below it. And the body experiences that all the time. We get psychological, emotional, or physical injury, and energy stops flowing in certain parts of our body. And the theory is that that's where we experience pain. And you release a lot of that stagnation by shifting the soft tissue and the bone structure.
The physical
right.
portion.
And I experienced it this morning with a massage. I mean, she was working my calves. I felt like I wanted her to stop, but this is spleen meridian. And I know that that is a problem for me, that meridian is often depleted for me. And that's very sore. So where there's pain, it's like a signpost of where the energy is not moving properly.
I had the same issue.
Yeah. You can't handle it when somebody works the calves?
Spleen energy was off a little bit on me. And yes, this portion right here is often in pain, intense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And even weirder is like in the practice of medical Qigong, if you have a spleen qi deficiency, when you breathe out, you make a specific sound. So the spleen meridian energy has a different sound than the liver energy or the kidney energy. So you're breathing out with different like or tss, or like it's all very, very specific and really pretty interesting.
Yeah, it goes back to us being all one big. We're frequencies. We are. We accept frequencies and we give off frequencies. Right. We are just one big transmitter.
That's it. And we're swimming in this interconnected sacred geometry web. So you and I are sharing all kinds of stuff right now.
I love it. And even through the camera and to the people watching us at home, I'm sure they're feeling it. So the intention here is to breathe well. Breathe and be present, breathe and be in tune with yourself. With that information, you can change your life and you can have a ripple effect into all the other people around you. I mean, the whole purpose of this podcast is to cultivate true health. How much more truer can you get to your health than learning how to breathe? The God-given right to us all is all here. We just have, it's a tool that we have to use. So is there anything else we need to talk about? This is fantastic.
I just love talking to you.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do one of these again.
Okay.
It's right down the street.
Yes. So close.
Yeah. So awesome insight on breathwork. Thank you for showing up and giving us a wealth of information. So thank you so much again.
I appreciate you.
Until next time, guys, take care.